Why have we seen countless successful, hardworking real estate investors pivot to note investing over the last couple of years? We'll discuss that with our guest today, who's been a very successful real estate investor and has added notes to his portfolio for cash flow and to support a lifestyle for his family, as well as to support and run a charity. And I think you'll all find very interesting. He'll be with us shortly. We're glad you're here. We'll start the show in 1 minute.
Real estate has created more millionaires than any other form of investing. But, how is that working out for you? Did you become a landlord and invest in rentals, expecting monthly cash flow? Only to become burned out, with all of the headaches of tenants, toilets and turnover? Are you shut out of the game by high prices and tough lending conditions? Is all of your investable capital locked up in a retirement account, and you don't know how to put it to work in real estate? Well, you've come to the right place.
Well, welcome back. It's either season 2 or episode 10. I don't care. I'm just glad you're here. My name's Tom Force. I'm your host. I'm also the founder of No Club USA. We've been on a little bit of a break. Been real busy, but we'll get back into that a little bit. Survived the solar eclipse of 2024, and now it's the Friday before Tax Monday. Make sure you get your taxes filed or file an extension. It's probably the only weekend of the year that I'm happy to be a landlord or invested in things other than notes, because I get those K1s with the negative numbers in box 2. So I get those tax breaks, but I'm still into cash flow, and hopefully you'll be too. If you're not familiar with what we do here, basically we are the bank. We are not the landlord. That's not what we want to be. We fund the deals and we buy streams of cash flow. And I'm going to give you some resources for that in just a moment. If you're not familiar with my story, I learned about note investing about 3 years ago, listening to another podcast, and I dove right in. It made a lot of sense to me, a lot less risk in my mind, and I set a goal for what kind of cash flow I wanted in 3 years. I hit that number in 2, and now I'm just kind of piling on to that now, and it's changed the course of my financial future, the future for my family, and so I feel the need to pass that on to everybody else. And the way I do it, I love it because I'm not selling anything. Everything on my website is free. I like to go speak to groups and tell them about what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I don't have my palm out. I'm just paying forward the information that I got and making that opportunity available to others. So we're going to dive in here in a minute. I just want to go ahead and introduce our sponsors real quick. And then on the other side, we've got a whole bunch of good content for you today. Well, in the note business, we have note servicers. In rental real estate, you should have a property manager. Make your life a little bit easier. My property manager, Homeward Property Management, says Homeward DFW, but they are all over North Texas. I believe they're into Oklahoma now and also expanding to Amarillo and Lubbock. Go to their website, see if you're covered. But if you're in one of their areas that they can service your properties, I would not hesitate to recommend them 100%. Great communication. They've got their own in-house maintenance team. So if you want to get rid of some of your headaches and managing properties, Dana Wynn over at Homer Property Management, I can't recommend them enough. If you need a realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, yeah, I'm biased, but I wouldn't put my son's name on the line if he couldn't live up to it. A lot of people have been talking about the National Association of Realtors settlement, what that's going to mean for the industry. For pros like Dan, this is actually going to be a good thing because he does a lot of buyer side transactions where that 3% has always been baked in, but now it's not. So you're going to have to find somebody on the buyer's side to represent you. You can't be going and buying properties without representation. You can, but the other side's represented and you should be as well. Dan has countless buyer side transactions. He gets in there and works tirelessly on your behalf. Not just showing properties, but doing contract negotiation, overseeing your best interest all the way through the transaction. He'll earn the commission. So anyway, if you need a realtor anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, not just to buy, but also to sell. He travels to all corners. He's gone to towns I haven't even heard of, but I can't recommend him highly enough. Danny at DannyForce.com, 817-903-5442. You'll be glad you did. If you're in the multifamily side, my other son, Brian, runs Deep Blue Capital, deepbluere.com. They just closed on another apartment complex here in the Metroplex. They're buying them right. Just had a syndicated investors webinar, I think it was last week, and it's almost fully committed. But if you're interested in learning more about multifamily investing, maybe you've got a deal to bring to the table you want them to look at, or you'd like to speak to somebody about it, or just be on the mailing list for the next opportunity, go to Deep Blue RE. In fact, one thing you can learn about when you're there is their podcast. I think they're on episode 35, 36 now, but they bring big bangers from the industry and people who've built up massive portfolios, talk about their successes and how the little guy can get in and make some wealth in syndication and multifamily as well. So definitely worth checking out. Every Thursday they have a podcast, and you should sign up to be on that list. And finally, those podcasts are put together by my buddy Jesse Showalter over at Tour Studios. He has a complete studio set up there, so no matter what your needs, whether you're long distance, in town, whatever, he can post-produce or give you the full setup as far as having the studio, the lighting, and all that good stuff. He doesn't do mine. I'm kind of cheap. I do it from my fallout shelter here in North Texas. But if you're looking to look professional instead, go to Tour Studios, and my friend Jesse will take good care of you. Well, like I said, it's tax weekend, and that's a good time to go over how we did the past year with our real estate investments. All the K1s should be in, the partnership returns for those of us who get them. Hopefully your provider's not late like some of mine are, just adds to the frustration. But how did you do? Where are you at? Are you exceeding your needs? You meeting your needs? Are you shaking your head wondering what you got into, not finding a way out? It's time for a self-assessment when it comes to your real estate investments. And honestly, when I speak to groups about how they're doing, most folks aren't happy. I just got my appraisal district notice for my taxes going up here on my personal residence. I know the insurance has gone up, and there's no sign of any of that abating. So all that pro forma stuff about the cash flow and the appreciation and all that, that's all just kind of a guesstimate to a lot of people. Are you like this guy here who did just about everything right and still ends up underwater? Or maybe you thought you had it made, you're kind of gliding into retirement, and then something out of the blue comes up like government intervention or taxes or something to disrupt your plan. This isn't easy. It's a tough way to make a living sometimes. And I know there's tax breaks and rentals and other forms of investing, but how are you cash flowing? It was Warren Buffett who said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, then you're probably going to work till you die. And no truer words were spoken. And I think it was Robert Kiyosaki who said the most important word in the world of money is cash flow, and the second one is leverage. Well, with notes, we do both. So what are notes? Let me tell you right off the bat, it is not hard money lending. It's not short-term lending. It's not tax liens. It's actually financial modeling with bank rate or other types of notes on mortgages. In other words, we are the bank. We either originate a loan with somebody, we create a note through seller financing, or we buy them on the marketplace. And that's how I've created my portfolio of notes, is essentially to buy notes that were out there on the marketplace. And we show everybody how to do that. There's plenty of places to pick them up. But anyway, the idea behind this is that we buy a stream of payments, but when there's problems, the borrower doesn't call me, they call the servicer. And very rarely are there problems in that regard. Unlike when you're a landlord, the slightest thing goes wrong, they're going to call you. They're going to call you on vacation. They're going to call you in the middle of the night. They're going to call you even if they don't need to. They're going to keep calling. They're going to keep bugging. And they're going to wreck your property. And they're going to leave it vacant. They're going to be headaches. You're going to get HOA violations. They're going to be thunderstorms and hailstorms and stolen air conditioners. Get the point? It's tough. It's tough being a landlord. I am a landlord. But investing in cash flowing notes, to me, is a much safer type of investment. Nothing's completely safe, and the SEC wouldn't allow me to say so, even if there was. but I think the degree of risk in note investing is way lower than any type of other investing you might be doing, and I think the returns are pretty good. They've set me up for retirement. I retire from my W-2 job here in 60 days, and I'm looking forward to it. And I have no fear that the cash flow I've created will not continue. It'll still be there. It's something I can plan on. If you're afraid to be in the stock market, I don't blame you. I've got a little bit of money in it, but not much. Where do you invest these days? What else would you put your money in? Okay, that's the purpose of today's discussion. Is what else would you do? What else can you put it in right now? When I first heard about notes, it's like, where has this been all my life? I remember I was teaching a note investing seminar over at a real estate brokerage in North Dallas. There's about 25 people there. And when it was over, one of the women came up to me, and she'd been in real estate for quite a while. And she goes, "I'm kind of angry." And I said, "Why?" And I was thinking, oh man, was I supposed to bring snacks or something? Did I break protocol? And she said, "No, it's I've been investing in real estate for 20 years and I've never heard of this." So if you're like her today, or you've only just basically heard about notes, here, this is a great place for you to learn. I'm going to give you some resources here in just a second, but I'm just going to give you a couple of slides to kind of show you what we do. Okay. So here's an example. It's an actual note, actual property that's in my portfolio, and I'm using this one because I'm going to tie into this later on with my guest. But nice little property in Mississippi. They've been in there for quite a while. They bought the property in November of 2016. They paid $149,000 for it at 9%. So the payment's right there about $1,250 a month, and they had a 300-month term on that one. So fast forward to 2022, September 2022, I was able to pick this up off a marketplace. The borrower is still owed $130,769 with 224 months left. I purchased that note at a discount, $111,650. Buying a note at a discount is just a condition of our marketplace. That's what we do. But that changed the yield on the investment from the note rate to a yield of 12%. That's really important to know. So anyway, I got it at a discount. And the bottom line is, just for our discussion's sake here today, I bought the right to collect $1,250 worth of payments every month for the next 224 months. So I invested $111,650, and I get the next 224 payments of $1,250. It goes to my servicer. My servicer takes out a small fee. They handle all the tax reporting, everything else. I get an ACH to my checking account every month. And this one is paid like clockwork. In fact, here's a servicing statement from the day I put it in service there. And the first month is $100 short because I set up the fee for the servicer. But beyond that, they take out $18.50 every month and forward me the rest. It's like clockwork. So in the first year, I collected a total of $14,749. There's about $3,000 of that was principal, so about $11,500 worth of interest. And we repeat and do it again. So right off the bat, I know that you have a lot of questions, and that's okay. That's the whole purpose of my podcast and this show, is to show examples and go through the questions so you can see exactly how this works. Probably the best way to do this, if you want to go, right after this podcast and check out more. I did a rather intensive webinar back in January on this. I updated some of my notes in there and took some real life examples and went through in depth on exactly how all of this works, what happens when they don't pay, sources of notes. I got into how real estate agents can use this in seller financing to get more deals out of each lead. Very, very comprehensive and in-depth presentation. And it's all for you right there, noteclubusa.com/CF, like cash flow. I'll say it again in case you're just listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's noteclubusa.com/CF, as in cash flow. Go check that out. And while you're at the website, we have plenty of other resources. Last season's podcasts were structured 1 through 9 to be a progression. We started with number 1, just buying notes so you can retire. And my guest on there is a hospital administrator who has now reached his retirement number. We went into non-performing notes, how to use retirement funds to not only fund your retirement, but maybe help your children or grandchildren with their Coverdale accounts, which is kind of the stage I'm at now. I'm taking all this alternative financing, HSAs, Coverdale accounts, sticking notes in there and getting good, secure cash flow rather than worrying about the stock market or how I'm going to leave a legacy. We got into why people are getting into notes now, brought on one of the preeminent note instructors in the world, Eddie Speed, came on podcast 5. Podcast 6 was all about why you use a servicer and all that they do. I could have talked to our servicer for about 3 hours, but I found it fascinating. And then we covered some more deals along the way. And last one of the year, I talked to a teacher, a former teacher. She taught 22 years. Now she's a real estate powerhouse, a loan officer, and also a note investor. In fact, she works with new note investors. So it was a really good season. We're going to get more into the whys with people on season 2, but go there and check it all out. That's why I do this. I've kind of got my financial flow set up, and I'm grateful that I came across notes and I dove in, became an action taker, and hopefully you're an action taker too. Because if you just watch all this stuff and don't do anything, and we're going to give you some ways to do it without costing you any money, then you're just getting entertainment here. But you gotta step out of your comfort zone and start getting involved. Whether you start in wholesaling or any of the other things that were uncomfortable. This may be uncomfortable at first, but the more you know about it, the more I think you'll like it. And since just about everybody who gets a taste of what note investing is about wants to learn more, I made it real simple and real easy and inexpensive to find out more. In fact, it's free. If you go to the upper right-hand side of my website, once again, noclubusa.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, it says free masterclass. Anybody who signs up through this link will be able to attend a free interactive 2-hour masterclass with my mentor and the foremost mind in the business, Eddie Speed. Very interactive. You'll be able to ask your questions and learn whether this is for you or not. I've only just scratched the surface here in a couple of minutes of talking on this podcast. When you go into my webinar, you'll see a lot more, and after that, you'll want to dig in and see how you can get involved, become an action taker. Because honestly, cash flow and notes has, like I said, changed the trajectory of my life. In fact, that's why people ask, why do you even do this? It's kind of like you got things set up and you said you just like to buy and sell notes, and I do. But the thing is, it's a small community. There are very few people out there who know about notes, and I want to interact with people who do. And so, in fact, I'm going to use an example here in just a minute where I did some business with our guest because he had been through training with Eddie Speed. It was very easy. We were talking the same language, and I want to see more people do that. So anyway, it's free. Go to check it out, and you'll be glad you did. One brief bit of housekeeping that we have to do. We're going to tie up a note that we discussed in the last 3 podcasts of last year, basically non-performing type note. That's another whole strategy in note investing, is actually getting properties at a discount when you buy a non-performing loan properly. And so we were talking about this one here in Mississippi. The balance in June of last year, when I was looking at it, was $57,000. She had been in the property since 2018. She had fallen 6 months behind. She had had a history of getting 3 or 4 months behind and then getting caught up. So we thought we'd take the risk, see if she'd go ahead and get caught up. And if she didn't, then we'd foreclose. So we bought that $57,000 worth of debt for $32,635. She was unwilling to get caught up. So we went through the loss mitigation process, which we talk about in some of our other modules. So as of right now, we foreclosed in December of 2023. Bar had 30 days to vacate, and she did. And actually, the place wasn't in really bad shape. I've seen a lot worse. And the property is now for sale with an agent. So anyway, next podcast, the one after that, hopefully we have a good resolution to that. Maybe it'll be sold. We want to get you caught up on that one. Okay, something I want to cover real quickly before we bring our guest on is a common question I get is, so I have some notes, I need some cash, what can I do? That's what everybody kind of gets to, is like, all right, I'm buying into the buying notes concept. What happens when I run out of money? Well, there's a couple of answers. Okay, that's not one of them. All right, so you have a mortgage. You can use it as collateral for a loan. There are actually companies and individuals who will loan you money against the payments for your note. You can sell it, and if you bought it at a discount, it's very liquid. It's much quicker than and profitable than selling a rental home, that's for sure. Or you could sell part of the note, and this is where everybody kind of smacks their head and says, "What?" It's called selling a partial. You're selling part of the note. You're selling the rights to a certain number of payment streams. In fact, this is such a powerful concept. I've devoted a section of the webinar to it, and also podcast number 8. I delved pretty deeply into this. It's called Mastering the Magic Math, and we take a much deeper dive in this particular instance, this particular case study. But I just want to go over it real quickly because it involves our guests. So to think about partials real quickly, the 30,000 foot view is partials are like a pizza. All right, you can buy the whole pizza for $6. You have 3 friends who don't want to buy the whole thing, but they want to taste that pizza and have some of it. So if you sell them each a slice at $2, you have recouped all your money, and you have nothing out, but you still have half that pizza. That's kind of the way the partials work. Now, in our world, we can't sell 3 pieces at once. It has to be one at a time. But this is basically the idea of the way partials work. So I'm going to go back to my note in Mississippi, the one that pays really well. That was $110,000. So right about the time that I was collecting that 12th check, I showed you the outlay from the servicer, the servicing statement. One Friday night, I came upon this post in our Note School members only Facebook group. And basically says, looking to purchase a 3-year partial for $40,000 or a hypothecation, which is loaning money against a note. So the translation down here, someone wants to buy some payments from the front end of a note or a partial, or lend a note holder money in return for an amortized payment secured by a note. Sounds like a lot of gobbledygook, but let's look at what we're talking about. So I can go ahead and do 2 things with this note, and it happened to work out perfectly because I did the calculations, and $40,000 at 7% was a little short of the $1,250. So I bumped it up to $40,500. And I said, man, that almost matches the payment I'm getting from my Mississippi note. So this is what it would look like. I would be selling the next 36 months of payments, the $1,250, to my partner, and I will keep $67,910 invested. Keep in mind that I've already had this note for a year. So I'll get $40,500 right up front to do what I want with. I'll still have a basis of $67,910 in the back and the right to the next 176 payments. So I knock my basis and risk down very quickly. And so I just want you to take a look at that for a second. Like I said, I go through this in detail on podcast 8, but I just kind of want to give you a taste of how this works. So on the top is I would go forward with Adam and I would sell him 36 payments at 7%. I kept the 176 on the back end for $67,910. What if I reinvested that $40,500? And that's generally what I wanted to do. So generally I would combine that with some other funds, and I like to get about 1% a month return on the money that I've invested. So in this case, I'd be looking to get about $400 a month back for the $40,000 that I invested. So just to keep it apples to apples here, there's 36 months of payments, and 176 months of payments is 212. So if I bought another note at 212 payments back at $400 a month, that's an extra $84,800. So what I did here is I have 2 notes. Now remember, I initially invested $111,650. All right. But for that price, I got a second note out of it because I sold off some of my payments. So I had $84,800 returned with my new note with the loan from Adam. I also have an anticipated cash flow return on year 4 out, that 176 payments of $220,000 returned. Plus I had the $14,750 from year 1 that I showed way back when. So now I'm getting a total of $319,550. So once again, I invested $111,650. My original plan was to get the 280 back over 224 months, but now over the same period of time, I'm getting $319,550 back. So I'm getting back an extra $39,550 just by foregoing 3 years worth of payments. It's Magic Maths. You'll have to go back and watch it again. Watch the podcast. It's very cool when you see it, and there's really no limit on how well you can do this. We've seen countless examples where people sold partials for more than they invested in the note, so they actually have no basis in it. So it's pretty crazy. And this is something you'll actually learn at that masterclass. Go to the 2-hour masterclass. You'll dive into the partials. Your head will spin. You'll say, I got to get involved in this. And as one of your gifts for attending, oh yeah, we give away stuff for you to come. You'll get a little calculator that talks about how all of this. And what I love about that deal is we filled a need for Adam. He wanted to invest that money at a certain return. I want to get that money back out to work and make it work more than it was sitting in the one note. So it was a perfect deal. And it's an example of why I do this, is so I can meet more people like Adam and work with them who, we can do business with to a mutually beneficial result. So anyway, I've kept them in the studio long enough. Let's go ahead and transition. We'll bring in Adam Roberts. I've got my first guest of the year, probably one of the best ones I'm going to have here. It's my buddy Adam Roberts, lives in Fort Worth. Tell you what a small world the note world is. He's married to a firecracker named Emily Courtright. When Emily was starting her real estate career at Keller Williams in Southlake, she and my son were friends there. That's where my son started his real estate business, and he's still kicking it. He's one of the sponsors of the show. We just had an ad for him on here, so Danny and she are good friends, but we meet in the note world 14 years later. So anyway, Adam, welcome aboard. Glad to have you aboard today, buddy.
Tom, thank you, sir. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I know a lot about you and your background, and the honor's all mine. I love when people, work their way out of the W-2 job, have a vision, and go with it. And I know we couldn't have Emily here today, but you speak for the family just fine. She's out speaking at different gigs, and she's the face of your franchise. But I like talking with you because we talk, in ways that guys talk about, certain things. So anyway, the reason I had you on today is because you've been involved in a lot of different real estate businesses. Still have a lot going today, and notes are really new to a lot of people. You pivoted kind of late in your real estate investing career. So let's go ahead and kind of back up. When you and Emily met, you weren't in real estate, were you?
No, we were both working as aerospace engineers, General Electric, about 12, 13 years ago.
Okay. And what did that job entail?
Well, I'll be honest, it was really cool. I mean, the technology behind that, and as you know, Tom, being in the aviation industry as a pilot, it's just, it's cutting edge. And really, we were both involved in technologies that took years and years to develop and engineer. And it was cool, but it came obviously with a big company badge, and it came with corporate America feel. And, after a while, and after a couple specific experiences there, you just kind of realize, hey, it's a job, and you're either a corporate athlete, you're going to make it big, or you're not. And right. And so for us, I think that early in our careers, it became pretty evident that GE and any other corporation wasn't going to really look out for us and our future, our future generations.
Sure. So I'm very big on the saying by Warren Buffett: if you can't figure out how to make money when you're asleep, you're going to work till you're broke, or work
right.
till you'll die.
That's right.
And so a while back, well, tell us about your introduction to real estate. How did that happen, and how did you guys decide to move forward?
Yeah. So Emily and I were living out in California on a work rotation with GE. We were putting together a couple acquisitions, different aviation businesses. And, I had been introduced very early on to the concept of real estate from my father, which is ironic because my father has only ever owned the homes that he's lived in. He's never done any alternative investing, but he had me read Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki. And he helped me put together a budget when I first went to school to help, now that I was on my own. And every year in that budget, he simulated adding a rent house. So that at the end of 10 years, I had 10 rent houses, and, the financials looked interesting, to say the least. So when we were living in California, Emily and I, we went to a real estate seminar on single family investing. And, quite literally, the topics and the vocabulary and the concepts in the room were just vastly different than what we were doing day to day. They were bigger, they were grander, they were, you were hearing words like financial freedom and passive income and like you said, making money in your sleep. And we were able to look past the sales pitch aspect of that evening, but our lives were forever changed from that point forward, because we knew that we could do those things that they were talking about. And so we ended up actually moving to Texas shortly thereafter, due to I'll call it a corporate takeover, where we were kicked to the curb, and GE was not kind to us, and they laid us off, and we were looking for jobs. And so we said,
you were unemployed when you going through all this.
What's that?
You're unemployed. So you're unemployed when
yeah,
you're going
basically
through all this?
looking for work. The shops that we worked in were for sale. They were going to investment firms for fire sale. And the writing was on the wall. And the 10 years that we'd been working at GE to become the next senior executive was basically all for nothing. And so we said, what we learned that evening in that real estate class, it's time to do that. We should have done it the day after that class, but here we are. Right. We're going to make something of it. So we moved to Texas. Emily did not go back to a W-2 wage. She started buying rentals and flipping houses, and I helped her.
What part of Texas? You're doing it right here in Dallas?
Yep, Fort Worth, Texas. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time frame is this?
2012.
Okay, so things have started to pick up a little bit then. That's good.
Things were. You could buy homes for less than $80,000. It was a good time.
It was, and unfortunately, a lot of people think those times will go on forever, right?
Yeah.
At least they did back then.
You have to be able to pivot around that.
Yeah. So what were you doing while she was doing the
So
rest
I ended up finding another aerospace engineering job for Goodrich landing gear. We made all the landing gear for Lockheed Martin fighter jets. So again, like super cool technology. I mean, the stuff for all those engineering nerds out there and scientists, it was awesome. But it wasn't the end game. It was, I could see what Emily was doing, and I knew that we had something that we were building. So even though we'd moved to Texas and I had another job, the goal was always to get me into the business full time. Sure.
I think, for the folks who aren't familiar with our Note School ecosphere, there are a lot of us engineers there. It just seems to be innate with the folks who come over to our side. I'm sure Wayne Garrett, of course, who runs our webinar calls every week. He's a big ex-engineer. He retired and went all in on notes as well. It's done real well for him as well. So when you talk about investing in real estate, was she fix and flipping? Were you keeping some rentals? What was that progression?
For a period of time, it was like every other house we bought, we would keep, and then every other one we would fix up and sell. And we kind of had this concept of, all right, we'll fix and flip this one and sell it and build up some capital and keep that, for our next investments. And then the next house we would keep as a rent house for long term. We thought we'd hold these homes for 5, 6, 7 years. The truth of the matter, and you're well aware of this, obviously being local here in Dallas, things just really accelerated in the marketplace. And it almost made too much sense to start selling off rentals after a period of 2 to 3 years, just so you could recapitalize. And but we didn't get a huge portfolio. I think we got up to about 12 rentals, and we had a 4-unit apartment building along with that. And that was our landlording business. I mean, we were full, Emily was full time, but we were both working with tenants, understanding how to make that thing rock and roll. And then on the side, we'd flip houses and build up a little capital.
So you were self-managing the rentals?
Mm-hmm. Self-managing. Yeah.
But you guys are pretty skilled, so I don't think that was probably too big a deal for a lot of folks. It's probably over their head, but you guys are very bright.
I'll be honest, a lot of the corporate stuff translates well, right? The project management, the people skills. At the end of the day, whether you've got a property manager or you're dealing directly with the tenants, we're talking human beings. These people, their families living in these homes. And it's, yes, you run a business and, there's certain things that we've got to abide by. But at the end of the day, it's all humans that we're dealing with, and everybody's, working together. So.
Well, of course, the screening process is really important too. You got to make sure you get the right people in there going to treat your collateral real well. So when did you guys transition to going into big time into the multifamily?
So right around 2016, we had noticed a distinct slowdown in our single family business. And we had, I won't say it was tight criteria, but we had criteria that we underwrote to when we were buying single family homes. And we enjoyed, either, like I said, selling those homes and making some money or keeping them as rentals. And it just got to a point where the rentals weren't cash flowing like they used to. Couldn't make quite as much.
Why was that? What do you think that was?
I think at that time it was primarily due to the home prices appreciating as much as they did. But, we would always go in and typically every house we bought needed some work. So we would use private financing in the front part of the acquisition phase to get the house purchased and to do the renovation. And then we would refinance into a longer term commercial mortgage. And really, with the prices that we were paying for homes, both on the flipping side and the rental side, things were just tight, right? Couldn't make as much, versus my mortgage if it was the rental. Sure. And then I just couldn't make as much as a profit on the flip because, a bunch of people were getting into the business. I mean, this was like HGTV on steroids. You'd watch an episode of HGTV and then you were flipping a house the next day. It was
where you went to a weekend seminar and they said, go get them. There's 300 new ones out. Everybody's cold calling everybody. Yeah.
We went through a period of time actually in 2016 where some of the homes that we would make offers on, we would eventually sell. Like during the contract period, we would wholesale them to wholesalers and then they would find investors to sell them to. And to me, that wasn't comfortable. I was like, wow, things are overheated. Little did I know it wasn't quite overheated yet, but to answer your question, that's what pointed us in the direction of multifamily, because we knew in order to continue the goal of building the business and me joining Emily full time, we'd have to do something a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more scalable. And so we pointed in the direction of commercial real estate, and we landed specifically on multifamily.
Okay. So where did you get the education to do that? Did you have a mentor? Did you kind of figure it out on your own? How did you guys get that rolling?
We did. We went to a couple different, seminars for groups around the area. There's a few big, well-known ones, but we ended up settling on a group here located in Dallas. And, the delivery of their program was pretty simple. They offered the coaching, the mentorship, the education. They also offered the network, the ecosystem. So, 1,000 or so investors part of the group, and you could partner with people, you could learn from people, you could invest with other people. What was nice is every deal that you underwrote and made offers on, you could get reviewed by someone who had dozens of properties in their portfolio. So it felt, it really felt like a good fit. And sure. In hindsight, it was a fantastic fit.
Great. So at the peak of your multifamily business, what did that look like? I know you were managing almost $250 million worth of multifamily?
Yep.
How did that look?
Yeah, at the peak, eight apartment communities ranging from 100 units all the way up to 324 units. All of them professionally managed with property management companies. And really, again, I tend to bash the corporate thing because it's, you tend to be a puppet on the stage, but you do learn a lot, not only from that experience about how to lead people and how to manage people and projects, and even in the single family world, working directly with tenants and understanding now today what the management company goes through as they work on the day-to-day stuff with, thousands of tenants in the portfolio. So really, for me, it's an operating rhythm. We meet with the management company every week to go over the metrics that are important to us and our investors. And, in the current state, we're just trying to navigate the economy and make sure that everybody's happy and we've got full units and rents being paid.
So have you decreased your holdings at all over the last couple of years, or are you still pretty much where you're at before?
Yeah, no, we have. I would say we've sold 2 properties in the past couple of years. And that was predominantly because we'd met our business plan. There was there was the need to kind of let the next buyer group handle the rest of whatever opportunity there was at the property.
Right.
And so, yeah, we ended up divesting out of those and moving some of that money into our next pivot, which was mortgage notes.
Okay. Did you have syndications going on those other ones? Did you have investors in your properties?
Oh yeah, every
Okay.
one of them. Yep, every one of the multifamily deals that we've done has been a syndication.
Okay. Um, I'm aware of some of the things that have happened to some of your multifamily. I was listening to Emily one day on another podcast, and she was talking about some of the things. I guess you did have a tenant sue you, which I guess is not the biggest of deals. But then you had a tornado and a fire, like within 30 days of each other or whatever.
We did. All three of those items that you're referencing happened in like a 90-day period.
Jeez.
We had just unfortunate incident. Had a tenant sue us. She ended up unfortunately, it's a terrible story. She got assaulted in one of our laundry rooms by someone who wasn't even from the neighborhood.
Sure.
And so took it upon herself to file a lawsuit on us.
Right. That happens.
Yep, happens. Yep. And then about a month later, we had a tornado rip through one of our Oklahoma properties. And luckily, not as much damage as some of the surrounding communities, but still a lot going on there. And then, third, had a entire building burned down at a property in Dallas. So
wow. When you talk about it, you make it sound so easy because you're the engineer, you've put it together, and it's all, hey, it goes like this, but the road isn't always like that, right? There's a lot of work involved in it.
A lot of work involved, a lot of people involved, right? It's not even just a one-man show. There's just a ton of energy that goes into making sure that the train stays on the tracks.
Exactly. It's kind of funny how things can pop out of nowhere, and it's just kind of like you were talking about your building burning down. And I think it was about 3 years or so ago. I owned 40 acres down near Hillsboro.
Yeah.
And we had a little community POA with a Facebook group on there. And my idea at the time was, maybe after retirement, I'll go down there and build a home or something and be kind of a compound for the family to come down and whatever. I loved it. The family's kind of lukewarm on it. And so put it on the market, maybe go get a lake house or something anyway. So it's on the market for about 6 months. I got somebody out there finally who's really interested in it. So 2 days later, I'm on this Facebook group and somebody's apologizing. And it's my next door neighbor lot owner. And he said, I was trying to do a controlled burn and it got out of hand.
Oh,
and we were trying to find out who owned the 40 acres next to him. Yeah, that was me. I found out about this on Facebook and I'm looking at the pictures and said, that's my grass. That's my trees. And the POA, head of the POA owned the next lot over. So I called her and I said, hey, what happened last night? Why didn't you guys call me? And they said, well, we didn't have your number, but it's burned up pretty good. And I think I drove down there in record time. But I learned a lot about, ranch land and stuff like that. The grass came back in about 3 months, and my trees were not terribly, scarred or anything. But still, it's kind of like every day you wake up and you never know what you're going to get, right? I mean, never expected that to happen.
I couldn't have said it better, Tom. It's true, right? I mean, you get. For folks like you and I that have goals and visions and we want to put things together and build things, you're just, I've come to learn, you're right, 100% right. You're going to wake up, there's going to be 2 or 3 things that happen today, total surprise, whatever it is, could be good, could be bad. And there's this moment of time that you react to it and it's all about that, right? It's
part of the fun of the game. And that's why we make a lot of money solving problems, but things are thrown in our way. I mean, I'm going to cover this on another podcast a few weeks from now, but I woke up about 3 or 4 weeks ago and I found a borrower with a lot of equity in the property, just wanted to walk away. Said, where do I sign the deed in lieu? I'm like, what?
Wow.
Anyway.
Wow.
You just never know what to expect.
Yeah. The good comes with the bad and vice versa.
Absolutely. So, but you got to put yourself in that position. That's what you guys did. So you leveraged that. And then, so you found out about notes. That was, tell me about KW Wealth and your trip down to San Antonio where you heard Brett Tanner speak.
Yeah. So we had, Emily and I are always trying to stay involved with different business groups and network and meet people. And part of her journey has been really connecting with her brokerage, Keller Williams, and just staying in touch with what some of the wealth KW Wealth folks are doing. And so she joined a mastermind through that organization. And what was really cool about that, I mean, we've been part of single family, multifamily groups and stuff. And this group was really the first one that talked about a diverse set of investments. I mean, first it was life insurance, then it was notes, and then it was multifamily, and then it was storage. And, and what it really made us realize is we just weren't diverse enough. I mean, our portfolio was extremely straightforward. It was multifamily real estate and a couple other things. And so when we really started engaging with Brett Tanner's group, and specifically meeting Eddie Speed, founder of Note School, through that group, we said, you know what, I think the signs are really pointing in the same direction here. We need to make a pivot. And we needed to for our business anyway. So I think it was really good that we engaged with that group.
Can you kind of point to an aha moment or something that clicked with you guys when it came to what Brett was talking about with notes? Was there something that appealed to you? You said, yeah, we got to look into this a little bit more.
Oh, 100%. And you know what it was? It was kind of a two-phase deal. First of all, in multifamily real estate, the past couple years have been extremely interesting from the perspective of interest rates, property taxes, insurance, various other, profit and loss line items. To just give you an example, 2 years ago, we were buying insurance for $300-400 per unit per year. And that figure on our renewals this past year was north of $1,000 per unit. And, the hurricanes, the freeze, everything's catching up with the insurance industry. But what that equates to is essentially, I mean, I can't charge the apartment resident an extra $600 a month in 1 year.
Nope.
So that just equates to the tightening of yields going to the investor. That's, precisely what that means. And so for Emily and I, multifamily real estate at this stage is our full-time job. It's how we make a living. It's how we put food on the table. And we saw our cash flows decline. I mean, we're substantially, right? If I had, let's say I had 8 real estate investments in multifamily, and each one was putting off maybe anywhere from 10 to 12% annualized cash flow. Well, that number for 4 of the properties or 5 of the properties was 0. And for the remaining properties was like 2 to 3%.
That'll keep you awake at night.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was abrupt. It was like, oh gosh, the insurance quotes came in. I guess I can't pay the investors next month. Right.
Well, so much of that is out of your control, and that's not to mention, if you ever have a claim, or have a building burned down or something like that. Right. So yeah, that's what we see is, I'm involved in, my viewers know I'm involved in just about everything. I've got money in syndications. I just stroked a check for one of Brian's projects this past week. So done right, it's a great thing. And you do have to diversify, but you guys realize that with all your eggs in one basket, you can't break a door off of one of those apartment buildings and take it down to Whole Foods. So this sounds like Brett's group came along at the right time, and you got exposed to Note School and Eddie Speed and move forward with that. So how's that journey been? We've talked before about the velocity of money too, and I think that appealed to you as well. But so how's that journey been? What was eye opening, and what's the reaction been to your investors as well? Because I know they're aware of it now as well.
Yeah, I think as we pivoted into notes, and specifically working with Note School, really it solved in the immediate. It solved an issue, right? It basically said, hey, you could take these remaining funds that you've got from a couple property sales, and instead of, stashing that away in some equity investment or, a piece of real estate, you could actually make a significant amount of cash flow. And that was the introduction when we heard Brett and Eddie speak. And so that's where the light bulb went off, and we said, oh, wow. So, I was making this much per month. Now it's this, but it could, expand again based on this investment vehicle. So that was just extremely eye-opening. And I'd say that probably the second phase of that evolution was when we actually got into it and started making these investments. One thing became very clear to me. when I make real estate investments, I don't care if it's single family, I don't care what it is. There's always a period of time where you've put the investment in the oven to bake, and you're kind of watching it and seeing how it's going, right? But you're not necessarily making any money off of it yet. And for multifamily, that's been really the name of the game the last couple of years. Like, hey, I'm going to give you $100,000, and based on the projections, the economy, I think that'll turn into 150, maybe 200 in 3 to 5 years. But with notes, what was very amazing, again, it's the second evolution after getting into it, is you get darn near half your principal investment back in just a number of years. And it's like, okay, well, now I can actually go do something else with that money. Whereas the real estate investments I've made, granted, I'm sure they're all going to work out, but I haven't seen, in some of those projects, I haven't seen a dime yet. And,
Well,
and it's been a couple of years.
And so we talk about, you're buying, for those of you who aren't really familiar with what we're talking about, and I did a little intro before I had him on, but we're buying mortgage payments. So 30 days after you close on the note, you should be seeing checks in your bank account, a one-time transaction where you may have 10, 20, 30 years of payments coming in. But I know exactly what you're talking about with the crush on the return on syndications. I used to invest through CrowdStreet. I just put some of my retirement money here and there, and they used to have offerings all the time come into my email box, and I might only have one every month now, and that's fine. But every one of them that was supposed to mature this year or this past year didn't mature. They're still looking for the buyout. They're looking for the refinance, and I'm also a partner in a residential assisted living facility that was built from the ground up in Denton. That one was supposed to be an 11-year project, and I think we're about to have a capital call discussion about that one too. So not only do they not cash flow, sometimes you're finding they're asking you for more money to keep the project going.
Yes, so, I've had a few of those too. It's not an easy conversation. So
what I like about notes, and you could probably say the same thing, is easy to manage. You make the one-time transaction. There's due diligence, and with the right mentorship, you know how to look for good notes and stay away from other ones. But it's literally you make one payment and everything should just keep coming, and you handle it through a servicer, right? So just like you had a property manager, and that was either you or a property manager for your rentals, somebody else handles all the work for you. So so when it comes to all the work involved with what you did compared to the work that you have to put in to manage your note portfolio, it's like night and day, right?
Oh, night and day. Notes are extremely passive. I mean, to your point, obviously the upfront work's important, and it's worth the time and effort to put that in to make sure what you're buying is you're getting, your money's worth. But after it's cash flowing, I mean, it's very passive.
So what kind of deals have you done to try to raise up your cash flow? So you guys have been in note school a little over a year?
That's right.
Yeah. So in fact, I remember the night that Eddie was headed down to San Antonio to that event because the roads were crappy. We had an ice storm here in Dallas, and Eddie calls me up and says, "Hey Tom, what's the weather going to be? Do you think I should drive down to San Antonio or not?" When you're a pilot, they think you're a weatherman too.
Well, you kind of are, right?
Yeah, I am a little bit. I said, "Well, Eddie, I'm going to stay home, but if you want to drive down there," I said, "It's going to be okay. You'll be all right." But look at how that one trip had a life-changing effect on you and your family and countless others. I mean, that's why I do this, because it's actually changed my trajectory, my retirement. And so I like to get the word out there. Eddie did that for you, and I know you've kind of been a beacon for Note School as well. And you've only been there a little over a year or so, but you guys have done some amazing things.
Yeah, I think it's been a really good experience. For every group that we've been a part of, we just make it a point to engage and become a known entity. Early on, as you know, I can't offer much. I'm more learning from people. But as we go, I think that's something that Emily and I really enjoy, whether it's with other Note School members or our investors, is just being able to teach. And whether it's multifamily or notes or whatever it is, I think now our big thing is, hey, if it's part of your portfolio, it doesn't have to be 100%, but it should be a part of it. And that's really when people ask me about notes, and usually they phrase it like this: "What do you think about notes?" I say, well, you know what? For us, it came at the right time. And for you, investor, or for, it may not be 100% of your portfolio, but it should be a part of it. It should be a percentage of it based on what I've experienced.
Well, and cash flow is your lifeblood, and so if you're not cash flowing, you have to find out a way to do it. And the industry changes. Eddie has a saying that, a good horse can only take you so far. So you may know what you're doing in multifamily, but when the market changes, you need to change horses. And that's what you guys did. And what I admire about you guys, Adam, is that you didn't just go to Brett's event and say, that's good, and then go back to doing what you were doing. Because, if you just go to something like that, it's just entertainment. It's, you need to dive in, and you guys did that. So much so that you guys won Rookie Investor of the Year for 2023. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Brett won Investor of the Year overall. So you guys took action, and that's great. And I love that. So you guys are very have a lot of authority when it comes to this, and a lot of integrity and a lot of authenticity, and people love that about you guys. I know Emily's out there speaking about Note School wherever she goes, and I admire that. So you guys have done a lot to bring more people in the fold, and I love that because we get to do business with people within our community here at Note School, and I prefer that. In fact, you and I did a deal not long after you came in.
That's right.
I talked about the partial before I had you on, but so when you posted that, I think it was Emily who posted the ad on Facebook in September and put $40,000 out there. You were looking to buy a partial. How is that fitting into your portfolio? Because a lot of people think about just buying notes and hanging on to them long term. You guys just wanted to put money to work for about 3 years or so. So what was the thought process behind that?
Well, when we got into this note business, we read a book by George Antone called The Banker's Code. And one of the biggest takeaways from that book for us was the fact that, and you pointed to this earlier, Tom, if you can prioritize the velocity of your money, in other words, if I've got whatever, $10,000, $20,000, $5,000 sitting in my bank account, if I can actually do something with that and get that principal back quickly, then that actually has a higher rate of return than if it's, well, of course, if it's just sitting there. But I've already proven that it has a higher rate of return than if I put it in, say, a multifamily investment, which I probably won't see for 3 to 5 years. So, so the thought process was, well, it was kind of multifaceted. First of all, velocity of money. So, hey, we've got some funds here. Let's put it to work. Number two, and you hit this nail on the head perfectly. One of the most powerful parts of these groups, Note School in particular, is the fact that the ecosystem exists. We can help each other out. And there's a level of trust there, right? I'm not necessarily buying a note from, say, a person that's doing a mom and pop seller financing deal. I'm not buying it on the open market. It's already been vetted. The borrower's been making payments, and there's a level of comfort there for a short-term investment, as you mentioned, 3 years. That's what we needed. And so we looked within the ecosystem. And to your point, we went on a joint venture here. You sold us a partial. And it turned out to be a huge win-win at a time when we needed cash flow. And
see, that's perfect. And there's a lot of people out there who aren't as fortunate as us, Adam, who don't have a lot of money to invest. So being able to buy a small partial, even smaller than what you did, is something how they get interested, get the money to work. With inflation the way it is, Vanguard offers you 5% if you want to sock that away. But I just took some money out of that account and I bought a full note in Detroit on a commercial building that's paying 15%. That'll be subject to next week's. But I'm kind of laddering these returns because, especially when you get to my age, bro, I just got my Medicare card in the mail the other day. You want to stop being old? Stuff's starting to get real. So I'm not into buying the 20 to 30 year notes anymore. Laddering the partials is a strategy that I'm going to move forward with, and it brings cash flow in at different times. And then, and we'll kind of move on to like legacy. You've got some young children and things like that. So I think notes is a great way to build up their future. For me, I've got grown kids but I have grandkids now. We're looking at using Coverdales to invest with them. But also, if something happens to me, my note business is probably the simplest thing to hand over to my family to manage versus a portfolio, rentals, or multifamily. So that's some of the planning I put into place. So looking down the road, kind of like, tell me about your why. Tell me a little bit about your airplane and what the future looks like for you guys.
Yeah, really and truly, Emily and I, our why is just having full control over our destiny. And that encompasses a couple different things. I mean, I think first and foremost, family is a big part of that. I want my daughter and any future kids that we may have to see that you really can. I mean, it's beyond being just useful member of society, right? You really can engage in your community and work together. I mean, we talked about like you and I working together. That's a microcosm of what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
You can be a part of the community, help each other out, find ways to build your wealth, and that's completely up to us. I don't have to rely on someone else to do that. So I think Emily and I, that's really a big reason we're in this, is because what we went through with GE is a good experience, but it didn't end well. And I think it made us realize that in order to be in charge and to have things the way that we want them for safety and security for our generation and beyond, a big why is just being in control of that destiny and that journey. And what it's allowed us to do, and it hasn't been overnight, right? We've been in the business trying to build this thing up for 10 plus years, but yeah, we love to travel. As you mentioned, you and I are both pilots. We have a small airplane that as much as I can get in that thing, I do, right? And go off and take the family places and try to get Riley.
I love following you on Facebook because next thing I know, you're up in Cincinnati for the opening day or something like that. That's awesome. That's what it's all about,
Yeah.
And you don't have tenants calling you while that's going on, right?
No. We're in a lifestyle. I call it a lifestyle business, right?
Yeah.
You can work your lifestyle around any business that you want to do, and maintain that level of success. And it's a good equilibrium. So
people are going to ask me, why didn't you ask him about the drums in the background? So I'm going to cover that. So are you in a band? Are you just learning? What's the deal?
So on the drums, yes, just learning. But I am in a local country and Western band in Dallas, Fort Worth. But okay. I don't play the drums. I play the piano. So.
Oh, awesome. You guys play local venues?
Yeah, we play all over Dallas Fort Worth area. We usually do 1 or 2 shows at Billy Bob's a year. Trying to think where else. We play up at if you're familiar with in Bartonville store.
And, right around the corner. I'm a flower man. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right. And Marty B's. We play at Marty B's quite a bit.
Oh man, yeah, love that place. It's literally 2 miles from my house.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'll have to let you know next time we're there.
Beautiful. Well, not only are you taking care of your family, but I understand you've got a charity that's really important to you and the family. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, we've gotten pretty heavily involved the last several years in a charity called Share the Love. And for Emily and I, again, having a lifestyle business and, being able to control our schedule, this is something that we can now do and spend time with. But usually once a year on, I would say years where we're not as busy, maybe twice a year, we will take a long mission trip down to, it's usually South America or Mexico, and we will distribute wheelchairs for people who need mobility. And it's generally children, and it's a wide range of reasons, right? But it's muscular dystrophy or other development issues, and it's amazing. I mean, you just coming from just a country, regardless of what you do in life, coming from the United States of America, where we seemingly have everything we need. It's just very humbling to go to places like that and see that a simple structural device with 4 wheels it changes the life of the recipient. It changes the life of the caregiver, changes the life of the family. And literally for $150, you can change a family's life. And so, we'd given to charities in the past. We'd been involved from a limited perspective, but never to the point where I could actually see my contribution, my physical and financial contribution get used. So that's what we're involved in. It's very meaningful to us.
That's awesome, man. That's super. I'm going to ask you to give the URL of the charity, and if you don't mind, your name and, well, we got your name, but your phone number, email, if people want to reach out to you about getting involved in that or just learning more about your note journey and all that, if you wouldn't mind getting that out there, I'll go ahead and put it across the bottom if that's
Yeah.
fine with you.
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
It's the charity is www.chairthelove.org.
Okay.
And you know what's cool is for folks who like to travel, you don't have to just give financially. You can actually sign up for these trips. You don't even have to be a part of the charity. You can just go.
Okay.
They're very
Okay.
open-ended on that. So
very cool.
Yeah, and as far as getting in touch with us, I would say the best way is our website, www.aeinvest.net.
Okay.
Respond right away. So
fantastic. Adam, it's been a pleasure having you on today. I love sitting down and talking with people who've done it. They've walked the walk, talked the talk, and gotten the job done. But they're always open to pivoting and helping people at the same time. And you guys are amazing ambassadors for Note School. I'm proud to call you a fellow Note School member. I look forward to watching you guys continue to rock it with your success and just kind of be in your shadow a little bit. That's awesome. So, and thanks for joining me on short notice today as well. So,
thank you.
We look to have you back on again soon. So, we'll take a quick break, about 30 seconds. We'll wrap it up. Got some information on how you can learn more about what Adam and I were talking about today. Thanks again, buddy.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, I know we ran kind of long, but that tends to be what happens on this show. I don't do it every week, but when I do come along, I feel like I've got a lot of content to give you. And hopefully you found it very worthwhile today, got you thinking a little bit. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Adam. What a great guy. I mean, he and his wife, Emily, they're just rock stars, but so humble. And hopefully you get to meet them someday. And if you have more questions about what they do, how they invest, go ahead and reach out to them. I want to thank him again for being on today. Just full of great content and great person. And I'm very, very proud to have had Adam on today. Make sure you check out our podcast, our webinar, attend the masterclass. Like I said, you don't know what you don't know. Be part of our community, work with people like Adam, and let's get your cash flow going. So go ahead and go to our website, click on the free masterclass, click on the podcast. Until then, hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Join our newsletter so that we can give you a heads up on when the next one's going to be out. And like our Facebook page. There's a copy of it right there. And we'll see you on there. That way you can keep up to date with other things we have going on. Next podcast, I'll talk about some of the partials that I bought. I actually went ahead and bought some. And we might even get to the note that I bought on a commercial building in downtown Detroit. What? Yeah, we did that. We'll talk about it next time. I promise. Take care. Bring some snacks. We'll see you next time.